All right, ladies and gents, the penultimate old school MacSplicer podcast I will be uploading before the launch of Ride to Orbis. This one featuring formerly EQNX team manager NyxRose, aka Emily. She is now known for being Cuddlecore's manager, Cuddlecore is a very high-level female Tekken player. I shouldn't even say female, she is a very high-level Tekken player. But anyway, this was back in March of 2020 when Team EQNX and Team Uyu were really the two major grassroots sponsors in the FGC. So I really wanted to talk to Emily back then and have a chat with her about her background in esports, her background with managing a team and all that. And it was a really fun conversation. We discussed anything from her early days with Halo to being on Team Echo Fox and Tekken and seeing the FGC evolve in the realm of esports, all the way up to her actually starting her own team with Team EQNX. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoy this conversation, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace. Today I have a very special guest with me, CEO and co-founder of Team EQNX, NyxRose, or better known as Emily. You go by Emily, right?
Yes. Hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for, first of all, coming on. It's been a while. We've been communicating back and forth through email.
Yeah.
It seems to be always like that. When you're trying to get something together, it just takes months upon end to try to get it actually working.
Yeah, but it's even weird. It's weird because we're in off season, so we don't have events, so I should have more time.
Right.
But stuff just pop. There's always something new every day. So I'm just happy though that I was able to make it and talk with you.
Yeah, awesome. No, I understand life happens, and like I had a couple things pop up, and I know you had a couple things pop up, so it's all good. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Speaking of the beast, so your name, like your tag, NyxRose, the Nyx, is that a Persona 3 reference, like the final boss, or am I just
like a lot of people ask me? They're like, "Is it from New York? Is it the Dota character?" And this is the first time I heard somebody ask about Persona. It's none of that. The story behind it is not good, and it's actually quite embarrassing. I made it when I was 12, and it's a secret. But all you have to know is that it's an acronym for something extremely embarrassing, and I made it when I was like 13, and it just stuck because you always want like a gamer tag that doesn't have any numbers or underscores. So NyxRose is never taken, so it just stuck. But the story behind it is not. I wish maybe I should just tell people I'm the Persona villain.
Right? Yeah, you could just be like, no, it's just the final boss in Persona.
It's just the final boss, not some super embarrassing like 13-year-old girls if you have a team name.
Right. Well, there you go. Now you have a fallback. So
yes,
that's good. So I'm really glad you came on because you have, in my opinion, I think you have such a unique background as far as because I mean. Most people that I talk to, whether it's real life or people I have on the podcast or in Discord, we're all so into fighting games that we're like sometimes almost in an echo chamber. So it's all we know, it's all we see.
Yeah.
So the reason why I really want to have you on is because your perspective is a little different, and that I know you have a lot of experience with different genres of gaming, and as well as esports. And we'll get to that, but you're somewhat recent into fighting games. Is that correct?
Yes, I got my first event, quote unquote event, was the E-League season, maybe season 2. And the first time I had ever been to an event was not because like I was a fan, it was because I was working for Echo Fox. So they sent me to E-League to work it, and I was there with like Justin and Taquito, and I didn't really know like the magnitude of their accomplishments in fighting games. So I was just stunned by the whole thing, like the game, Street Fighter, the commentators, they were so good. It was like Rip, Sajam, and Richard. I think it was Richard Lewis, was it? On E-League? Yeah. But I went to that and I was like, this is awesome. And then they're like, well, I sat Justin Wong and AJ, who I was working with, they're like, this is not like quote unquote FGC, right? This is more like a button up professional version of it. I was like, oh, okay. But I was like, but the games are like great. So, it's really easy for someone to watch. And I'm somebody who comes away from Halo, and then I went to StarCraft, League of Legends, Overwatch, and those games are so hard for a mainstream person to watch. Like, like even in esports, like Overwatch tried really hard with like changing camera angles, changing like the colors of the characters, but like they're still so difficult for a mainstream person to watch. But fighting games, on the other hand, it just drew me in right away. The games and the personalities. Like when I was there, there was like a whole thing with like K Brad and Wolf Crone, and
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, this is crazy. I love it because
that's grassroots right there. It doesn't.
Yeah, but it wasn't in a like, you know, it was in a studio in Atlanta, and they're like, you need to go to a quote unquote real event. So I was like, all right.
Right.
So then my first quote unquote real event was Evo, actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so like I was working with Equifox then as well, and I just, you know, FGC, everything about it, the people, the games, the tournaments, the content, everything was just so, I just fell in love with it. And most games that I've been a part of in esports, I'm always like a player. I always compete in it. But with Tekken, it's actually the one where I'm like a real spectator, and that's new for me.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was maybe 2017.
That's a crazy introduction to the fighting game.
Yeah, and like that was also like the Evo that Tokido and JDCR won.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was like, oh, this is great.
Yep. Equifox was on top back then.
Yeah, that was really something else.
Yeah, no, that was a crazy year. But wow, so your introduction to our little small community is with like the two biggest grand scale shows we have. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and with like a team that's not like a team that there's no other team like Equifox at the time in FGC.
They were like a super team back then.
Yeah, so
they had all the all-stars, really.
Yeah, it was super unexpected because I hadn't applied thinking I would really get into fighting games, you know?
Right.
I had more experience with shooters at the time.
Right. So you said Halo was that like your gaming roots, would you say?
Yeah, no, that was the start. That was when I saw like MLG's programming on, I think it was TNT at the time, and I was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. Right. They had like the venue and then the player cams and the interviews. That was like my first taste of like esports, and I feel like MLG was like really ahead of its time with what they were doing. And Halo 2 is when I started playing, and that's when I was like, oh my God, can't, like, competing in video games on, like, I hadn't competed online before. Before that, I was always playing like Final Fantasy or Zelda. Right. So when I got online, I got my Xbox Live for the first time. I was like, oh, this is awesome. That's
a crazy. I mean, it is pretty different, right? Going from like a community like that versus fighting games.
It's really weird to think about. Like today, it's so common just to have like an online aspect, or it's a given for a lot of competitive games.
Right, we expect it.
Yeah, but definitely back then, it was like totally foreign to me.
Right.
But that was the thing that drew me in. Like the MLG thing, once I was into that, it was over. Like esports was my life.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of esports, I know you have a background in writing as well, right?
Yes. So I went to school for writing. I graduated college with a degree in English and communication. So I knew that I really wanted to do something with writing, but I still wanted to be involved with esports, and I was getting really sad because, you know, school took a priority and I couldn't go to as many events and play. So I was like, how can I still be involved with this? And that's when I was like, why don't I just make content? And that's when I started trying to utilize my degree and just practice writing. And I worked with a couple small esports independent websites, and then I ended up with IGN, and then after that, Riot Games. And I was at a point where I was like, I was like interviewing to keep moving up in Riot Games, and there was an opportunity for me to potentially move to Santa Monica. to work with them further with writing and esports, developing their LOL esports, because they had just launched LOL esports when I was with them.
Oh, wow.
LOLesports.com. And yeah, it was a while, a really long time ago. And then I was just like, I don't think I'm ready to relocate at this time. And I didn't feel like it was the right path for me. So I ended up staying on the East Coast. I'm located on the East Coast.
Okay.
And I had to find some other, another way to be involved with esports. And that's when I came across like Echo Fox, and they're looking for somebody remote. So that's like right up my alley, because I really prefer being on the East Coast.
Okay. Yeah. That's,
sorry.
I mean, no, I understand. Like, it's almost like a dangling carrot, right? Like you think about like Riot Games, it's almost prestigious, but if you're not ready, you're not ready.
Yeah. People thought I was crazy. Sometimes I think I'm crazy, but it wasn't the right time. Like it sounds a little cocky, but I have gotten like a number of job opportunities to move to LA to start something, but I just always felt like it wasn't the right path for me, and I felt like I really wanted to develop what was going on the East Coast, because everything esports is in LA, right? And so much is in California, and I felt like I could really help develop other places that LA. Everybody's in LA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like the center of most of our entertainment, and that includes esports. So
right.
No, that is unique that you want to build something on the other side of the country. We have obviously our two biggest locals are NLBC and Wednesday Night Fights, and those two are on the opposite sides of the country. So we have representation, but I do think that when you think about majors or attractions, a lot of people go to the West Coast for that.
Right.
So but no, yeah, that's commendable. For like, I probably would have taken the bait, honestly. I've been like, it's nice weather. I'm there.
I was really, really tempted. It took me a long time to make the decision. But
right.
Now
that's
I'm
understandable. Right. Cool.
Yeah.
So with your time at Echo Fox, did you notice any, I mean, if that was somewhat your introduction to the FGC, did you notice any like differences from experiencing the FGC compared to other games, since you had some experience in esports with I guess the more traditional esports games?
Do you want to know about like the game itself, or like the players, or just like general?
How about even if we remove the esports side, just the community itself? What was the biggest difference you saw between like other games and communities you've been around compared to the first introduction to the FGC?
So every game before, like every community I was part of before the FGC, they were like super focused online. So they had online communities, Reddit, everything's online, right? And FGC is kind of different, where you need to go to events, right? You need to go in person. You should go to arcades. There's a lot of a big social aspect, I feel, to FGC. And so I noticed when I was talking to like an FGC player or a League of Legends player, or Gears of War, like I was around a lot of different players on Echo Fox, and I was around a lot of communities with my job, because we had like 7-8 different games on Echo Fox.
Wow.
But what I noticed is that a lot of the FGC guys, they were older. They all had almost all of them had full-time jobs, and they just seemed more aware of what was important to build your brand, what was important to like the importance of sponsor obligations, deliverables. And it was they just seemed to understand the business aspect much more than the other players who were often very young. They were teens. They were living on their own for the first time. They quit school to pursue this. And it was just, you could tell the difference, right? FGC, much older, much more social, because you're literally next to your opponent. In like League of Legends, you got a screen against all the time, right? And like at the LCS, they just shake hands at the end. Right. But that's what really drew me to the FGC. I was taken under the wing of Cool Gray AJ and Justin Wong, so I feel like they really eased me in, and they showed me like because Justin at the time, even though he was on Echo Fox, he was still working full time at NVIDIA.
Right.
And like we had like Foxconn, a bunch of parties with gatherings with Echo Fox, and he brought his laptop to do work. Yeah, so I thought it was like, I loved it. I felt like they just were doing this because they love the game, right? A lot of people in FGC aren't doing it because they're trying to make like big bucks.
No.
Right? Like, yeah, so like it was really cool to see people who just loved the game, loved competing, but also had like other parts of their life that they were developing, which I think is super important, just to be a happy human being.
Right. Yeah, no, that is kind of, this is the reason why I love to talk to people who are from different backgrounds, is because I don't see that, because I haven't experienced it. So like, being around people and, playing in arcades and this, I mean, I don't know about like maturity, but like, because you have to be in that environment of where it's very personal, like there's just a different vibe versus if you just grind online for like 8 hours a day and you never see the opponent or whatever. So it's like, it's just different. So yeah, I can totally get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I was just so excited to like learn about the FGC. I would ask them, I was like, why don't people counterpick? It's the weirdest thing. Like, I come from Overwatch, and Overwatch people are constantly counterpicking, right? Oh, there's a Reaper, you have to switch to this, you can't be this, right? You're constantly changing your character to better your situation. But I was like, why does the Keto only play this game? Like, I was just like, I was so confused. I was like, why do they play this if it's like why does Justin play his character if he's a crappy character, right? Or why this? I just didn't understand. And then I was talking to Justin and Gamerby at the time, and they're like, people feel really connected to their character, and they have that connection, and they want to just make it work with their character. And I thought that was really interesting.
Right.
Like the character loyalty, because you seriously don't really have that in League of Legends or like Overwatch. You usually have a big hero pool, right? And you switch according to the situation. Nowadays, I feel like FGC, like Tekken players are doing it more because, like the whole Leroy fiasco.
Right,
yeah. But there is a lot more character loyalty, and I really like that.
No, that's definitely true. One of the biggest examples that I go with, even though he did pick Elena back at like Evo 2015, Gamerby was like, he was like seen as like almost like the people's champ, because he stuck with Adon for a long time, and it took him a while to get to that point where he could finally get the grand finals. And after he got the grand finals, obviously there was a little bit of what happened there with the stick malfunction, and him having to come back from loser. So like, but even though he lost and he came in second, like the amount of cheers he got, it almost like he felt like he won, because people really admire the fact that he just stuck to that character. And there's a bunch of examples like that.
Wasn't there like a documentary on it or something? I feel like I've seen it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it. But yeah, Gamerby was also one that I met at E-League, right? So he was like, he's older, and he was like working for Twitch at the time. So I thought it's so foreign to me, because a lot of times people in Halo were like, I'm quitting school to go full-time MLG, like a lot of teens. And I'm like, please, no, you need to have a backup plan.
Right. Yeah, no, that is pretty common, where like you said, most of us, even the ones that like, I mean, I go to tournaments, but I'm not trying to like, compete for like a sponsor, or like I don't want to be a professional player. Like that's not my goal, but like it's still fun to go, right? To just be a part. Yeah. So I have, my friends and I, we make it a tradition to go to Combo Breaker every year. And
oh yes.
And we just, I mean, we suck. We all suck, but it's just fun to just go and play.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I love playing, even though I suck too. But I had so much fun at NorCal Strong Style. And that's another thing I love about FGC. The events are crazy. Like, I can't even describe anything else like. Wait, were you at the finals?
Oh, which one?
Bangkok.
No, I can't travel that far. I wish, yeah. I might make it to New Orleans this year, but...
Oh my god. That would be amazing. But, okay, so... in Thailand, I came back late to, like, I think it was pools, and I I hear like a rumbling, and I'm like, what the hell? Because I haven't made it to the auditorium yet, but I just hear rumbling and like a beat, and I open the door to the place, and we run in because we're all late, me and my friends, and then it's just like the Japanese, like hundreds of them, just going no B, no B, and like cheering. And then I look over, and then there's like this small little group of Pakistanis just going Pakistan, Pakistan, and it was crazy. Like it was so loud, and it was infectious, the roar, and like you couldn't hear anything, and my heart was like beating, and I've never experienced real like nationalism like that in any esports. Oftentimes you'll see leagues or developers really try to force it. It's really not organic. We're like, okay, this is the Philadelphia team and you're going to cheer for them, right. And this is going to be the London team. But it's often forced, and it's hard for people to feel a tie to, I'm from Philly, but like when they created Philly Fusion, I wasn't like, oh yeah, that's going to be my team, right? But with Pakistan and Japan and Korea, and just the whole like this rivalry between the nations, I've never experienced it in any other game.
Right, it's real personal, isn't it? But
it was. It was. I wish I wish you were there, because it's just I can't describe it how it's global. It felt like
it's definitely different. I've been obviously on a smaller scale where last year Anakin and Nee played at the final Combo Breaker.
Oh my god!
And I mean, just obviously it's in Combo Breaker, so it's in the Midwest here in the States, so you're gonna have a big crowd cheering for America, and you have an American in grand finals, and just the atmosphere of like every time Anakin did anything, even though he's playing Jack and that character was not really regarded as like the most fancy character, you can feel it. Like it's just every time he did anything, like they were just cheering, and then when he would lose, they would be like, try to spirit bomb him, and like it was really cool.
It was actually, I think that Combo Breaker was bigger than the finals in terms of like they like added all that seating from the back. It was just, Combo Breaker was huge.
I highly recommend Combo Breaker if you've never been. I think that tournament is super. It's like a hidden gem. It's so special. Like everybody should go to Combo Breaker.
I don't know if it's hidden anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
Last year I was like, I should go, and I went, and I was like, this is all. Except rest in peace. I really didn't like the Pheasant Run, but it's shutting down. But I really did think it was like an ideal event for a player. Like 24-hour venues, crazy, and everywhere, games everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. They had Ceros by the pool. I mean,
by the pool, by a trash can.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I remember I would walk down the hallways by like where they sell all the art and stuff, and people are just playing on the floor with their little laptop and like playing Melty Blood. It's just it's really cool. Yeah. Like it has such a really unique atmosphere. I remember the difference between like 2017 Combo Breaker and then 2019 Combo Breaker was huge. Like it was just,
really,
it just felt different. Like Combo Breaker in 2017 was really hype, but like last year it was on such another level that I was like, this is legit now. Like it's.
Oh, I can't wait for this year.
It was cool.
This year is supposed to be even crazy, right? Because it's in a different area, new venue.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, we're gonna go and have fun. So.
And I'm a huge fan of Rick. I think he does amazing work for.
Oh yeah, shout out to the Hugo.
Yeah, he's awesome. He helps me a lot, and I learn a lot from. Combo Breaker is just like everything was so fun. Did you do like the auctions and stuff? That was
no, funny. But we stuck around and we watched it. Yeah.
Wait, are you a Tekken player or just?
So every year I'll try to enter at least 2 games. This year I'm going to enter 3, but I'll enter Tekken and then something else. So the last 2 years I entered Tekken and Unist. And this year I'm going to enter Tekken, Unist, or I guess Uniclair, and Melty Blood. So we're going to enter that. But it's a group of us, and we all go, and we have like our little handle. We go by down forward 2 because we mash down forward 2 with every character we play. So
do I do that?
I don't know. Well, you play Kazumi, right?
Down forward 1.
That's
mine. Down forward 1. That's mine.
Yeah. So down forward 2 is normally like a launcher for all the characters we play in our group. So that's the handle.
I like that. that.
Yeah.
That's good. See, that's what I think is great. Like, there's so many people with like every game has like so many different communities, and but like I've noticed a lot of people like checking out the other. Like if you like one game, you usually like another game, and like everybody's so supportive of each other. From what I can tell, I know there's a lot of drama that there's a lot of stuff that goes on that I don't know about because I'm so new. But from what I can tell, it's the community. It's very community based, and that's why it's. I don't know. I think it's a testament to how global it is, right?
Right. I think the reason why there is the level of drama where you see it just happen sometimes is because it's so community based. So I know obviously recently, I'm not going to get too much into it, but like recently we had like Strider say what he said about throwing out like, well, I'm going to keep playing Street Fighter 5 because I don't want to be like this community, and then that's personal, right? Like that hurts. So like that community is like, wait a second, you can't diss my people, like that's not how that works. So it's like you said, there's a lot of almost nationalism, and then there's like little localism where like, even if it's just four of us, like you can't say that about my people. So it's just.
I feel like before there was more of the West Coast versus East Coast rivalry, so I want it back.
Right. Yeah. I think it's definitely toned down a little bit. It's
definitely
not as intense. Now I think it's just more. I think games are going at each other's throats now more so than like actual areas where like there's little circles of games will really go at each other, and it's unfortunate, but you also have to be aware of like what other games are doing, and then almost take lessons from it. Yeah,
we're not like each other's enemies.
No.
such a weird thing sometimes in business or esports. People like I've seen a lot of like scorched earth just dealings, and I feel like it doesn't always have to be like that.
Right. I mean, all of it is, in my opinion, all of it is just fake. Like it's all online. It's Twitter, right? Like if you go on Twitter, that FGC compared to like if you go to Twitter, if you go to like Final Round, they're different. They're completely different people. Like,
definitely. Yes.
It's not even close. So because most people don't go to locals, right? Because whatever, they have circumstances where they can't go to locals or they can't go to dojos or challenger events or majors. They watch the stream and they go on Twitter and they comment, and that's how it starts. So it's unfortunate, but there's almost like two separate communities. You have the offline. And the
online. Definitely. Like people are like, you experience this in person. I'm like, no, it's very different in person compared to online.
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of problems in person, of course, but you're right. It's two different things that you have to be mindful of, and oftentimes I think TO forget that the Twitch community is part of your your tournament. You should be taking care of it, right?
Right.
And but you're right that both are. You can't compare the two at all.
No, you really can't. Like I don't know about you, but I've never been salty once offline. But like I don't know how many times I've like been legit mad online. It's just a different mentality, and like I can't even control it. But it's just your mindset is just different.
I don't think I would ever get mad at a person like literally right next to me.
No.
Unless they like did something real stupid that really it's like something with Leroy, like this little hop kick thing I hate, or the magic. I call it the cane.
Oh yeah, the cane.
That guy.
That's rough.
When he came out, I was like really close to finally getting yellow rank. I went all the way down. I was like, screw this guy.
Yeah, he made a lot of people look like they knew what they were doing in Tekken. That's for sure. But they adjusted him, and the reason why I really like Bandai Namco and what they do is because they actually they listen. They're not, they make mistakes, and that's fine. Yes. But they make sure to correct them. So I really like what they do in that community, or in that, I guess, that specific developer. I really appreciate what they're doing.
I do. Yeah, obviously there's problems, but I think that there's so many people that are fighting for our community and for Tekken who have the power, like Rick or Markman or Michael Murray, Harada. They're
really involved.
Yeah, they're involved. You see the face. They speak candidly when they can. I just feel like sometimes people get really upset at them and they want to burn the messenger. But I feel like we have a lot of good people looking out for us.
Oh yeah, I think Tekken has it really good. I mean, you can look around and you can see who
Yeah.
doesn't have it good. So like you should really be appreciative. Like Tekken is your main game, like you're doing fine. You're in good hands. Like we could be way worse off where like
Yes.
the developer like doesn't even care. Like this is what you get and good luck. So
Well, one of the controversies right now is the Nintendo thing, right?
mhm.
And I sincerely hope, like, dev support is so important in like any game, right?
Yeah.
And it can make or break a game. And I just hope, things will only get better for the FGC.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, I think we're definitely on the right track. This
think
generation
so.
has been it's not what I expected. Like I look at fighting game generations a little different. So like I'll look at like the Street Fighter 4 generation, so that ended in 2015. And then you have really the Street Fighter 5 generation, Tekken 7. So that started in like 2016, up to 2020. So I did not see this coming, like what we're living in now, like this current
Really?
modern FGC. I didn't see it coming, but I'm not displeased by any stretch. Like
So what is it to you?
just the current direction where we're going as far as the exposure of fighting games.
Do you think it's like too esportsy, or like what do you mean, like huge now? Or
I think we perhaps try to push on the gas a little too much early on. So like
yeah.
2016, 2017, I think we were trying to really force the issue. And then we were trying to go away from what, made us. I always preach like, you have to dance with who brought you there. So like grassroots is really, it's a big integral part of what fighting games are. So we can't just forget about it. And then I think we were trying to really just push the issue in 2016 and 2017. That now in like, I think 2018, 2019 was just a bit more measured in the approach of like, okay, let's try to make it work, but we'll scale it down. And I think we saw that both in the way we're trying to run tournaments now and how we're catering to the fighting game community. I think it's a little different now where you see even with the way the games are launched, it's not how you would see it in like 2013, for example, but it's not as bad as it technically could be, where my biggest fear is that we get to a point in the FGC where fighting games are made first and foremost to a general public, and then secondly to the like core fighting game community. I think that would be a really terrible step to take in the community. But I thought we were trending towards that early on, but now I think most developers are like, okay, let's rethink this, because there was a lot of backlash early on with the way we were running events and with the way our games were trending as far as the mechanics and trending towards easier components and and stuff like that. So I think we're doing good. We're doing good.
Well, in terms of like tournaments, I thought that dojo introduction was great for the grassroots thing. I think a lot of other tours are like picking it up now.
Yeah, no, I think that is, and that's like what I'm talking about, where we see it pick up. There's as much as I like events that are invitational only, like the Red Bull and, you have, what was it, Texas Showdown? They had didn't they have like an 8-man tournament for a couple years where it was just invitational only. Those are really cool, and I like that spectacle where it's like, well, I'm just going to see the best of the best play, and that's awesome. But I would hate if that was all it was. Like, I like the open invite tournaments.
The I think they call it barrier to entry for FGCs. Just anybody can play, right? That's what it's supposed to be about, community, and like that's the thing, right? Anybody can play.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's community literally in the word and the acronym.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I do love invitationals. Yes, I do love them. I think they have a time and place, but also I love community-based events. And this is something like I've been thinking about this year. We've been working on hosting an event. And oftentimes I'd be like, what can we do to, make it special? Should we invite players or should we do an invitational? And then I like talk to some players that I'm close to, and it's like, what would draw you to a dojo? And oftentimes they just want, a fun place to play. Like, it's so simple. Yeah. They don't want a lot. Like, a lot of times they don't care about huge prize. Some people do, of course, but like, just having a place where there's lots of casuals having fun, keep it simple.
Yeah. And that's really what the FGC is. Like, I think most people who are into fighting games are, they go to locals, not because they're like, oh, I could win $20. It's like, no, because, it's like, I wonder, how much have I worked on this matchup? I wonder if the stuff I do online actually works in this setting. Like, people are just interested to see, like, how good am I really? So,
and it's just fun to play. I went to Wednesday night fights and I got my ass kicked so bad so many times. It was really embarrassing, but people were really nice. I had a good time. And it's fun to just get involved and try.
Mm-hmm. No, it's excellent. When I was at Combo Breaker, I ran into, I forget his name. He's really good, but
in what game?
Tekken. He has a Jin in his name, but he plays Kazuya. But he's actually a known player, and I've never met him before, and his name seemed familiar, but I didn't know how good he was. And then he hit me with a counter hit down forward 2 into electric, and I don't know if you know how hard that is to do in Tekken, and it does like 1 trillion damage. And he hit me with that, and my eyes just opened. I was like, oh my god.
Oh shit!
I couldn't even be mad. I was like giving the guy props. I was like, "Hey man, if you can do that offline, kudos to you. You deserve to win." Like,
he was practicing that like all week.
Yeah, Onijin, that's his name. Shout out to Onijin.
I love Onijin. That's like, he's awesome.
Yeah, he beat my ass. I had to switch characters, and he still beat me. So.
Did he like bring out his special stick, with like the plays?
Yeah, and I asked him about that. He told me the whole story about like Green Arcade and everything. And I was like, that's what it's about. Like, it's so cool. Like, I've never known this guy before, and now he's telling me a story about how he got the stick because I asked him about it. I was like, that's really interesting. And the fact that he has like this little pad that he puts under.
He opens his box, pulls out the thing, flattens it. Yeah. Like, I was watching him each game at no time. His little tradition, perfectly placed. It was really cute. It's really cool. It's awesome. I was really jealous of that box.
And it's like surprising where like my first match playing in Tekken, somebody, I forgot who they picked. They picked somebody who they thought was going to be a counter pick to Lily, because most people know me for playing Lily, but I picked Paul for the first match. So after we were done, he was like, "Man, you really threw me a curveball. I was scouting for Lily," because he saw me play online. So I mean, just little interactions like that, it makes it worth it. So it's, and then everybody brings their friends, right? So like when I was playing Eunice, my buddies were behind me cheering me, and then the guy who I was playing, he had like 2 friends behind him. So every time I dropped a combo, they were cheering. Every time he did a combo, my buddies were, so it's fun.
It's so fun. Like, I witnessed like the side bets. I was like, what the heck is that? Like, what's up with this dude, man? The first time I met Poke I was like, what the heck is wrong with, like, he's just yelling and like and walking around money. Who you got? I got this guy. And I was like, what the heck? And I just saw, I was like, oh my god, this looks fun actually. And Poke and like, he's so funny and so nice, and I just thought it was so exciting. I don't know. I'm so used to, like, I was at a lot of league tournaments, right? You gotta be like, everybody just sitting and watching. There's no side bets. And
very proper.
Very proper. And in Overwatch, people like get fines for shoulder checking or teabagging, and I'm just like, I like it. It's fun. I think. Yeah. I like that feel. It's
very grassroots. I know my buddy, he met Pokechop at Combo Breaker, and that like it made his day. Well, he said, all he said to him, he saw Pokechop and he said, "Hey, Pokechop," and then the guy and Pokechop turned around. He was like, "What up, man?" And then that made his day. Like that's just, they didn't even know each other, but I mean for him that was his Combo Breaker.
That's another thing that I really liked about FGC is that everybody's so approachable. Tokido, he's like this legend, but he was so easy to talk to, or like Justin Wong people. But like a lot of times in other esports, there's often like this barrier between people who are like the influencers and top tier players. So it's hard they have like their own managers, or they're very protected, or they're often just playing, right? So you don't really get to interact with them, and you don't really build a conversation. It's oftentimes like when I worked with them, I'd be like, hey, I need this, or you need to do this, and that was that. But with FGC, it was, it's like, I just met you and we're just talking like we've known each other.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's just chill.
Even the barrier to language, I find that like, I would see, people coming up to Knee and like Chanel and just, just talking to them, and like it's like they were friends already just because of that common interest in like Tekken. So it's just really cool to see. And I don't think we see that a lot in other genres of like competitive games.
Knee was late to one of his matches at Rev Major because he could not stop saying hello to all the fans, because the Filipino fans, it's like Tekken is like esports over there. They're crazy, like the lineup. And these, like, they were so pleasant. The fans are so nice that it's hard to say like no, because they're so polite, and they love, though this is the only time they're going to see some of these players. And I just think how approachable they are is, it makes people feel like welcome, or like feel part of the community.
Right. It's very, very different. I always compare, like, if we compare like esports to sports, you know how there are like leagues, and like there's the NFL and then the MLB and the NBA. So those are like really proper leagues. Yeah. And then you have like mixed martial arts, which is like, like the UFC, and where it's still like a professional sport, but it's very different. Like you could tell like they don't belong with those other proper leagues. That's how I find the FGC, whereas like,
I like that. Yeah.
We're still, technically an esport, but we just do things a little differently, where it's just more personal. Our fans are different. Our competitors are a little different. And
I like that. I like that comparison.
Yeah.
And I've been to a couple events now where it's FGC and MMA, or like boxing or something, and they're always great. People mixing both of them together.
Yeah. There's a lot of common themes in both. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's just, I really enjoy that sort of camaraderie and that feeling. So that's cool. I guess since we were talking a little bit about esports,
sure.
we'll get into it. So obviously you're a fairly recent introductee to fighting games, but now you find yourself as, a CEO and co-founder of a esports organization in fighting games. How did that become about? Like, what was the inspiration of all of a sudden deciding to form Team EQNX?
So I was coming to a time on Echo Fox where I was like, I felt like there wasn't room to grow anymore. And I felt like I accomplished what I had wanted in that role. And I started, seeking new opportunities. And this is when I was about to join an Overwatch League team and start working for them. And then I just thought about it, and like I would have been in LA. I don't know where you live, but LA is like hell expensive, right? Like,
right, yeah.
Like, is it really worth like a lot of times to get into esports, you need to do the grind, right? You need to do those jobs where you're gonna probably be living in like a really small apartment with a bunch of roommates just to make ends meet, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough, even for it didn't seem like something I wanted to do, and I felt like my skills and my experience could be put to something else. So I decided not to do the Overwatch League job, and I talked with my dad a lot. I get a lot of advice from my dad. We talked about it, and then it just seemed like the only time that this made sense. So like, I wanted to take what I had learned from Echo Fox and the things I'd seen there and the things I thought I could do better, or things that I could improve on. And I wanted to use everything I learned my whole life just to create something that I thought the FGC needed. Or like, I just felt like I had the unique opportunity to do this. And so I wanted to just do it. It's like, when else am I going to be able to do it? And I was in a really fortunate situation to have a chance, because a lot of times people just don't have the chance because it's a really difficult industry.
Right.
And I don't know, it just happened. I was just like, hey, let's make a team. Let's make a team. And I co-founded it with my cousin Timo, and the rest is history. Honestly, like, I don't know, it just happened. I wanted to make a team, and then I was like, how can we do this? And so far, I think we're doing a pretty good job. But
yeah, I would say.
But it's just like, I don't know. I just, at that point, I was like, do I want to try something new, or do I want to go to California and be a social media coordinator?
Right.
So I was like, let's just try it. Especially since I had the opportunity to do it.
Right. So, I mean, it seems to be working out. You guys debuted in CEO 2018, was it?
Yeah. Yes. CEO 2018 was our first event. It was just me, Timo, and Dimebag.
Yeah, that's wild. So now you're about 2 years into it.
About, yeah.
How is it everything you ever thought it would be?
I don't know. I'm trying to think about like where I thought we would be in like 2 years, and I feel really happy right now. We just picked up Olson, and so I feel happy with the roster we have. He has so much potential, and I feel like we can really help.
He's so young too.
And he's really motivated, and I just feel right now super confident in the roster we have and the direction we're going. And I feel like, I'm not I am not a business, like, I was a writer, I was a communications person. I was doing my expertise is marketing, branding, player relations. So I'm no expert in esports entrepreneurship. So the past 2 years has been really tough learning. But now I feel like I've widened my network. I have a lot of support from people, and I have a lot of people I'm able to bounce ideas off of, that people I trust and are able to guide me in the right direction. So honestly, it just feels like I don't know, like, it's hard to think about, because
it's kind of wild, ain't it?
Yeah, like, I'm just thinking, like, did I think we're going to be like this? Like, I don't think it's hard for me to just think about, because I'm so focused on like the present and just making it to the end of the year.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but for me, when I think about growth and expansion, a lot of times people think like, oh, you got to get in Smash, you got to get in MK, you got to this, right? Like, are you going to get this player? And like, they equate a lot of growth with expansion, literal expansion into games and players. And for me, that's not really what I'm focused on. I know there's like a lot of opportunities in those games, but this is like, I want to take my time with it, go really slow. And for me, growth comes from seeing my players grow, literally, like, as people. So when I picked players, I was really careful about picking people who I felt had a lot of potential and were like rising stars, right? Understood, like, they need to build their brand, they need to stream, it's more than just grind, play. So whenever I think about the future, I just hope that we have the same people and they feel like they've grown a lot.
Well, yeah, I can say that for sure. Just as like a stream monster, right? Like,
yeah,
we've seen a lot of EQNX representation just from whether it's Joey Fury or if it's, Cuddlecore was killing it. So obviously Dimebag, always felt so bad for him because that was his spot at LCQ. Like,
oh
technically.
My God.
So I was like, damn, that's technically his spot, and the fact that, it came up a little short, so.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. But yeah, we picked people that, I don't know, we didn't pick, like, it just happened this way that the people ended up being really big fan favorites. And I just wanted to pick up people that I wanted to work with, I thought were cool. And so it's just crazy to think like how far we've come, because we didn't intend for a lot of things to happen. They just happened.
Right. So as far as I've heard an interesting story about the name, or I guess the
Oh
inception
God.
of the name.
So we started with a lot of different names, and the first name we had and the color scheme, it was very similar to another team. I don't even know if they're still active, maybe, but they
Very
had a
underground.
they had a less than positive reputation. And of
Mhm.
course, me being a noob, I didn't know anything. So I've got all this stuff developed, and I go up to AJ and I'm like, "Hey man, check this out. What do you think?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Everything." He's like, "First off, the colors are exact same. The name is too similar." And he's like, "No, no, no, no." And I thought about it. I was like, "Yeah, we don't want to make the first, our inception, like fighting a bad reputation that's not ours. No, we're the new one, like that's such a waste." I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, we need to think of something else.
It's already an uphill battle. So the name you're referring to is Empire, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, it's funny, there's now a team called Dallas Empire who are also black and gold. So
Oh,
apparently
no.
Empire and black and gold, it's just in everybody's brain
Yeah.
as like the first team. So I'm just so thankful that I talked to AJ, because it was before everything was like really launched. So we were able to fix everything, but we do have a T-shirt that my mom wears now, and it just says Empire on it with our logo. So I'm like, at least it's getting some use somewhere. Just funny because like black and gold, some reason people equate like black and gold with Empire. I don't know why.
Right.
But
So Equinox.
Yeah, Equinox.
So
Equinox.
how did that come up? Is that an acronym for something, or?
No, it was for a long time we're like, oh my, are we gonna name us? Like so many name generate. I'm on Google name generate. Can I think of? It's so hard to come up with a name. So we just AJ like sat down with me, and he's just like, okay, let's think of some themes or like what you want to portray. And we just kept coming up. I kept telling him, answering questions, and then he noticed. He's like, okay, so it sounds like you really like celestial, like space things, or like astral concepts, and it sounds like you really like the letter E. And I was like, I don't know why I like the letter E, but I kept picking words with E, and then we just came across the term equinox, which is like the time where the spring autumn equinox, where the length of night and day are equal, and it like spiritually it's meant to be about balance and equality, I feel. And for me, I felt like it really resonated with what I was trying to do with equinox, because for me, I just hope with my team and the foundation and the tools that I bring, that I'm able to help players become balanced, like whole, like, because
Right.
you can't just be a pro player. Very few players who are amazing have long careers. Like longevity comes from everything, right?
Yeah, you'll burn out too quick.
Yeah. So like I try my best to help them with PR. I try to help them build their stream, content, branding, even like just speaking better or how to present themselves. And so I just felt like Equinox really embodied that. And then it was like a cool word too. Like of course it'd be good. They were like, we better not be any teams like with our kids saying freaking Empire. And then of course there wasn't too many major teams. There's maybe like an obscure Call of Duty team, but it happened, and it's here, and I'm just thankful that we didn't have to do that uphill battle trying to tell people, no, we're the new, and that's how it happens.
Well, no, that's I didn't know that story. That's actually really cool. The inception of the name, as far as what it means. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks. I think it's really important to have balance.
Yeah.
Too much of anything, you're gonna be lacking somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm. And no, you've seen that too. Like one of the biggest things I found is that now you're seeing like these really, really like unbelievable players like Knee and JDCR start to, they're expanding their knowledge as far as trying to do some content creation. Obviously, Knee, he's been known for like doing his archives, and now he's doing a little bit more camera work. So it's really cool to like actually get to know these players. And JDCR, like his vlog series, I think is so underrated. Like. It's almost like a life and a player. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so do you know that I work with him? Oh, really? So I work very closely with JD, and I've been working since Echo Fox ended because, he didn't have a team. Mm-hmm.
So I'm really close to Saint and JD. So I just wanted to help them as much as I could because I knew they needed the help. And so JD and I started developing the YouTube, and I helped him with like the direction of content. Like he had so many ideas, and I was like, I helped him focus. And we knew and he knew he wanted to do vlogs. So I helped him with editing a lot of them, with translations and subtitling. And we just worked really well together. And people really liked our stuff. And it was, we really wanted to be able to show a side of a player, not just what you see like 10 seconds between matches on the screen and that's it. Like you don't even hear their voice. You only hear what the stories and the narratives that the commentators make, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a very conscious decision to really get player personalities out there and let people see like they have so much personality, so many stories, so much opportunity, and that people should take notice. So I'm really happy that you're a JDCR fan because, you know, we work really hard on the channel, and I'm really happy to hear.
Well, yeah, you guys are doing. I really didn't know that. So that's actually really impressive. I really like that series. It's like you said, it's almost like finding a balance. Like, because I always knew JDCR was like godlike, right? But like you don't really know the person, so
right.
I didn't really know much of his personality. So seeing that, like almost like a day in the life of you know, a Tekken god and like different venues and like different places and how he interacts with people and how many friends he has, like it's really cool and it's well produced. So yeah, you guys are doing an excellent job with that series.
And the thing, like a lot of the things this is something that I noticed is like a lot of these things are within the players, right? So I'm not feeding it to JD. I'm like, you should do this, you should do this. Yeah. Like, you know, they have these amazing ideas. They want, like so many people want to make content. They want to make vlogs. They just need a little help with like editing or like understanding how to upload well or what thumbnails to use or when to upload. They just don't know. But that's something I noticed with FGC people is like they want to do these things. And
just need a little push.
Yeah. So I hope that I'm able to help people in that way. And that's why I've been working with JDCR that way. And it's just great that, you know, you notice. A lot of people notice.
Mm-hmm. No, it's excellent. I really like that series.
Thanks. I'm really happy. I want more. Like, I just want to see more of it everywhere, right? I want to know a lot. Like, the only unfortunate thing about it that I can say is that JD is one of the only people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see like Anakin. That would be so cool, right? Or seeing like Jimmy. I would love to see a bigger push for that sort of content.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see more, I guess, individualism outside of what we see with the two characters on screen. Like, that would be really cool. And I mean, just seeing like the interactions between like how good friends Anakin and JDCR are, like you wouldn't know that otherwise, right? Like, you know, they're competitors and you know they have respect for each other, but to know that like they're actually like good buddies, so like it's really cool. Like I really enjoy that aspect.
So that was one thing I did tell JD. I was like, stop filming like so much B-roll. I was like, you should, because I noticed he has such funny conversations with people, and I was like, you know, this is what people want to see. And then so he started putting more of his one-on-ones with like Jimmy or Anakin, and so people get to see their personalities, because people think like they're robots. They call JDCR like a robot all the time, but actually these guys are so funny and they have great stories and personalities.
Yeah, there's a lot that's left to be known. I remember when Knee and JDCR shook hands at Rev Major 2017. I mean, that was like so crazy to us, because just the amount of like, we knew there was some bad blood as far through the years, right? Through them competing for a long time. So when we saw that, we were like, this is like a whole different arc. Like, this is crazy. So
I love it.
So yeah, there's a lot to be found in content creation on the FGC side. It's not all about, you know, tech or
exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I like seeing stuff like that. It's great. So keep doing it.
Because, you know, it's like what I want to see, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely, I mean, and you can see with his interaction, both on his comments and stuff, like there's a community that wants that, like they're craving that type of content. So
yes, definitely.
You just got to tap into it. So it's excellent. So shout outs to JDCR and you. So as far as on the esports side, so you said, I mean, obviously it's been a journey, and with every journey, I know it's like it's not always a smooth sailing. So
Right.
within these last almost 2 years, what have some of the, I guess, the bumps down the road or like hardships that you found as far as being like a co-owner of like a esports organization? How have you handled some of those things?
It's so hard sometimes. Like, it's still in such a small state, so it's hard to see a lot of return on the things you do. And a lot of it, that the things I do is like, for the long haul, right? So you have to just keep doing what you're doing. And sometimes I do get discouraged. Like, am I doing the right thing? Are we growing fast enough? Am I players correctly? Am I doing the best I can as a leader? Like, it's so, it's like, I'm stressed a lot. But I guess the thing that helps the most is just surrounding yourself with the right support group. I really don't know how anybody could do this alone, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
you need people, your people. You need people to bounce ideas off of. And I feel super grateful because there are times where, I've like crumbled. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. This is crazy. And I go and I talk and I sort of remove all the over emotional parts of it. And I realize, we know what we're doing. We have a focus, and we're not gonna, it's not like Fortnite, right? We're not gonna be rolling in money with 53rd place at World Championship. But like, I really believe in the scene. I believe in the players. I believe in what we're doing. So we're just taking it real slow. That's how I manage it. Like, just taking it, not like, picking up players left and right, not going to all these games, not doing all this stuff, right? Just taking things slow, because I don't think there's a rush.
Yeah, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say.
Yeah. And it's hard to like sit back and like see everybody else, right? Like growing so much. And I'm like, Are we doing enough? But, in the end, I'm happy for them, but we're on our own journey, right? Can't really compare. And I guess it's all just to say, like, there are so many hard times, but thanks to great friends and colleagues, I am able to keep chugging.
Right. Just try to maintain your own balance.
Yeah. And I feel like it's not an indication of failure. It's more like, we're doing good. Just keep going. Just keep doing it.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I guess it's like people would just see it on screen, right? Like, and I'm included in that, where like I don't think about it, but I'm sure just with scheduling and then trying to maintain everybody as far as like work-life balance, I mean, that just has to be a nightmare sometimes, I bet.
With FGC, like, esports, I feel like it's a 24/7 job sometimes. Like, when I was on Echo Fox, we had like stuff at like 4 a.m., 7 p.m. I was like, global everywhere. And with Equinox, a lot of
travel too.
Yeah, a lot of travel. I traveled so much last year. I'm really so tired from it, but it's part of the work. And when I get to travel and I get to see my players and see them perform and like doing stuff with them, of course it's like worth it, right?
Yeah.
It's a struggle, but when I get to see like our players following their dream, it makes me really happy, because there's only a few teams in Tekken or like the FGC. So they chose us, and so I just want to make sure that we're able to do everything we can to make them pursue their goals.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's very, very commendable, you guys.
Thank you. Sometimes I think I'm crazy though.
I mean, I know it can't be easy. To be even just any sort of sponsor or any sort of team, it has to be. I'm sure it comes with hardships. So,
the hardships are there, but the good things that happen definitely outweigh.
So, I like to ask everybody that comes on a podcast. I like just kind of like general FGC questions.
Sure.
So, as far as like fighting games, I know we talked a lot about Tekken, and that's a main focus for you. But as far as fighting games, what have you been enjoying in this somewhat postmodern FGC? So by postmodern, I mean like post. I know I have my own terminology. Postmodern is like 2016 on, so like post Street Fighter 4 era.
So what exactly you're asking? Can you ask it again?
So like, what kind of fighting games have you been enjoying in this generation? So like, obviously we talked about Tekken 7, and there's all these fighting games out.
I really want to play Grand Blue Versus. I love watching it, but it's not out for PC yet.
Nope.
I don't have a console. I tried Eunice. It's really hard. but they have a great tutorial. I wish that it existed in other games, but right now for fighting games, I only play Tekken. I stream Tekken. That seems to be what people like to see on my stream. But when I'm not playing Tekken, I'm actually playing like Overwatch and League, to be honest.
That's cool.
Yeah, fighting games are really difficult for me. So if you can imagine, like in shooters, in Overwatch, you have like 4 abilities. And you're clicking, or like League, you have 4 abilities, but like Tekken, you got like fighting games, you had like so many moves, right? So it's really overwhelming for somebody like me. But oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna ask because this comes up a lot actually, and like I said, where everybody that I talk to, they're so engrossed in the FGC. So like, I actually want to know, when you say fighting games are difficult for you, what could you pinpoint it as far as like why?
Because it requires a lot. I feel like to be good at fighting games, you have to really commit the time and the effort to like, get practice partners, learn. It's like a long process, right? You have to get movement, then you got to learn your character, then you got to learn the other characters, you got to learn frame, you got to learn to be at the level where you're even halfway decent, right? You have to develop these things. Yeah, it's a huge time commitment, and I just haven't been able to prioritize it at all.
Right. And well, you're in a unique position where time is a valuable commodity.
But it's so freaking fun. It's really fun, and like just getting the muscle memory in your hands and stuff, and knowing when to knowing when to sidestep, when to this, and when to jump, and like knowing to anti-air with like other games. And for some reason, quarter circle moves are extremely difficult for my fingers.
Oh man,
I play on hitbox. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So you're a cheater.
I love my hitbox, but yeah. So like they have the 3 directional buttons, so it's like hard for me to do a lot of stuff. But it's maybe just the concept as well of like learning how to punish, just having patience. When I'm playing like Overwatch and stuff, I'm clicking constantly. Okay, so like FGC, you have to be very clear about what you're about to do. You can't just button mash, right? You have to really know, and that. For me, oftentimes when I play games, it's very mindless because it's just like, I'm on break now. I'm just mindlessly playing something.
Right. Kind of going through the motions.
Yeah. So
it's tough to do that with fighting games.
Yeah. But with fighting games, when you actually hit that freaking punish or that combo, even something small like a little launcher, it's so satisfying.
Right.
More than any game. Like, I'm like, yes.
No, that's an interesting perspective. I think that's a big part of the FGC as far as like the core FGC, because like I'll get asked a bunch of times where even like, when I ask people for questions for the podcast, they'll ask me like, hey, what do you think it would take to get people interested or get newcomers to start playing fighting games? And I never have an answer because I'm never in that perspective, because I love fighting games for what they are. So I don't see how somebody like wouldn't. And I'm not saying that as like, oh, fighting games are the best thing ever. It's just because I love them that I never have the answer. So I'm always interested in somebody who has some sort of hurdle with fighting games. Is like, what is it? Because a lot of us are so engrossed in it, we just don't see it. We kind of take it for granted. It's like, well, I mean, the fighting game is kind of hard, but it's whatever.
Yeah. Well, for me, as a complete noob, I get really overwhelmed with games that like lots of meters or like different like too many skills, or just having to be super mechanical.
Right.
But
a lot of information.
Yeah, and for me, the game is really just for me to relax. So sometimes, I understand, but I think that's what makes fighting games so great and a great spectator sport, right? Because I don't play, I don't really follow the patches. Like I do follow, but like I don't understand the intricacies of like punishment and what happened there. Like everybody's like, oh, like every time something happens in Tekken, it's so funny. Something will happen, and everybody just turns and like start nodding their head. And I look at them and I'm like, you know what I'm talking about? They go, like, and I'm just like, I don't really know what happened there, but sure. But still, I'm able to still really like it. I watch it and enjoy it. And like, if you're talking about like other fighting games, why maybe I'm not I'm not into it. It's just like some of them are really fast and it's hard to understand what's going on. It's just way too fast. Like,
right.
My dad watched me Smash and he just had no idea what was going on. It was really difficult for him to, there's like people flying everywhere and stocks and stuff and explosions, and Tekken or like Street Fighter. So Street Fighter has like meter and all that, but it's so easy, right, to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You got two guys, for the most part. So that's what I think about like Dragon Ball and Smash. It's just really fast for my eyes. Even like, like I'm. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. My dog decides that he wants to bark, so it's all good.
He's like.
No, but I understand what you're saying. As far as I always say like you develop eyes for fighting games, especially the ones that are really fast. So there are two examples where I honestly like it just recently happened to me where I've been playing Unist a lot lately, just because. Season 3 for Tekken for me, I haven't really vibed with. I like Tekken a lot still, but I kind of went away from it for a little bit because Season 3 took the pace. Yeah, it kind of sped up the pace for Tekken. And I like Tekken a little more meticulous, and now it's going back to that, so I might visit it again. But I've been playing a lot of Unist because it's a really deep game, and I really like it. But for the longest time, I was playing Unist, and I never had the eyes for it. It was still very fast for me, despite playing it. And only just as of recently, I've started like it started really just slowing down for me, and I could really understand what was going on.
I love that moment when you're just like, oh.
Yeah, you just kind of it just clicks all of a sudden.
Yeah, you're like,
and I could see how it's very difficult. And I used to play a game called Persona 4 Arena for a long time, and Persona is like really fast if you've never seen it before. But like if you really like understand what's going on, like you said, like people nodding, like that would be me and my friends like be like, oh, okay, did you say that? Like, and other people are like, what just happened? Like that was like, I have no idea what happened. But if I watch Overwatch, like my roommate, he's big into Overwatch and he understands everything. He watches the league, he plays. If I watch it, I have no idea what I'm seeing on screen. Like, I just see a bunch of colors and it's just so fast and the camera angles and like I don't have eyes for Overwatch. So I understand what you mean when like certain fighting games just seem like they're just way too fast.
Yeah, my eyes are not trained for it. Like, I'm sure if I took the time and like really delved into it, I think I could do it. But there's just so many fighting games, man, that I want to play or watch.
Yeah, they really are. And a lot of them are actually really of quality. So that's why it makes it it's very difficult to pick one.
It's a good time to be a fighting game fan.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I picked a good what did you call it?
Postmodern FGC.
Postmodern, yeah.
It's not a real term. Don't say that to your friends. So as far as, do you have like a dream fighting game? If you had like the magic crystal and you could make a fighting game.
Yeah. What
do you think it would be? Or even if you wanted to bring back a fighting game, that would be.
Honestly, my dream fighting game is coming soon. Like the Riot Games one. Project L. I'm cool. So hyped for that because, obviously I love League and other fighting games. And I think that Riot is going to just shake up the scene, right? And I think for the better.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm really optimistic.
Yeah. They're the ones who like really, like, they're not the only ones, but when you think esports, right? Think of Riot and all, like when people talk about all the stats about esports as big as Riot, right? Or Dota and I just feel like I can't wait. I think the current scene, like a new player coming in, is just going to be good for everything.
Oh, absolutely. I think if they can set a precedent, I've spoken about this before when they got released, they're so powerful as a brand. If they can set a precedent, and I'm talking just with how they run their game, especially if they decide to go with like a proper netcode, which is such a big problem.
Right.
If they can just set that precedent and everybody else sees, well, I mean, they're doing it and they're, really successful. Hopefully everybody just takes note and
That's what I'm hoping.
We can move into a point where we're like, hey, playing online isn't too bad now.
Yeah. Oh, so. Yes. Like more competition, better. And I love what the games they make. I think they're doing a great job with like the card games and everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm super excited.
Yeah. No, parity in the landscape is really good. And yeah, I'm excited for their game. Even though like I personally don't see myself like really getting into it, but yeah. I like the fact that it's coming. I think it's good. It's good for the FGC for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be good for them.
Alrighty, I think we got to the point where we got some listener questions, and not too many, but I asked the people on either on Discord or on the YouTube channel to ask them questions. What if they have questions for guests, because normally I do the podcast on my own. It's just me talking to a microphone, so it's nice to have guests on. So old school subscriber of mine on this channel, Absolute Zero X19.
That name is so familiar.
He has a funny, like a smiley face as like an icon, so maybe you know him. They ask, with the rising popularity of fighting games and esports, some of the grassroots qualities of the FGC have been gradually toned down due to the influx and need to comply to like terms and conditions and stuff like that. So you basically just asked, do you have any thoughts regarding this? And this is almost what I was talking about earlier, right? Like, especially even on this channel, like we're so like honed in onto fighting games. So even that question where he's talking about how he can tell like the grassroots qualities have been kind of gradually leaving. That's almost the FGC talking. I was like, hey, we don't want this to go away.
Right.
So it's just a concern.
So I think the concerns are totally valid. And it makes me think about what we were talking about, UFC and, the MMA, like, people who come into FGC and want to quote unquote esports it, like it's not going to work, right? No. Because for a long time, Echo Fox really wanted to do this push where they made esports like sports, right? And I'm like, it's not going to work with certain games or certain communities because sports are not esports, right? They're not the same thing, and you can't treat it the same thing, treat it the same way. And so it makes me think like when people come in and try to improve the FGC or make it more esportsy, it's possible to do it in a way where you're not losing that grassroots feel, and you just have to be more creative and thoughtful with it. But people sometimes try to fit FGC in this like esports box, and they just don't understand it, right? Because like maybe they'll treat it like golf, but we're not golf. We're MMA, right? Like you can't. Like, why would you want to button up the FGC and be like, oh, you're gonna get a tech for shoulder checking or something? And like, we're not like that. And the sooner non-endemic partners or like people who want to get involved in the FGC because they're seeing the growing numbers and the popularity, the sooner they realize that it's not going to be like League of Legends or Call of Duty. It's a totally own beast, right? Yep. And that's why I can see that it's scary that these people come in, right, and they try to change things that they don't understand, or they don't get what is making the FGC work, which is the community, like you said, right, and the grassroots feel. And it's still possible to have that grassroots feel while also still, appealing to brands and sponsors and being professional. I think it's a balance, and people that come in and don't have the right intentions and try to force FGC into this role that it's not, that's when there's problems. So I know the viewer question, it's a valid concern, and people just need to treat the FGC as the FGC and not like another esport or sport.
Right. And there's, if I could just add to that, is that I spoke to Majin Obama on this podcast, I think last year, and the similar question came in, and he said, how do you remember when Rip and Ryan Hart had that little where they started going back and forth, and everybody loved that, right? Because it was just really grassroots moment where like they're just talking to each other about games and placings and all that, so like it was fun for the viewers. He was saying the reason why something like that can't happen at like a League of Legends event or something is because there's so much red tape, and that those guys have so much to really just take note of that they don't really have the freedom to really express who they are. Even as commentators, they don't have that. So, but then you have, a brand like Golden Boy that's, running the production for an event like that, whereas the FGC doesn't. So it's a give and take relationship.
Right.
But yeah, that was a good question. Absolute zero. This is another one from Choi Sauce, another guest on the podcast. He writes for Top Tier GG, if you've ever read any other articles. He asks, what do you think is unique about building a brand in the FGC as opposed to other communities?
Building a brand in the FGC. Well, obviously, it's money-wise, it's quite a lot cheaper than a lot of esports, just to be frank. Yeah, surprisingly. So I worked in a lot of different esports, obviously. So there's like different the salaries across, or like how much, the money in different games are not going to be the same, right? Like League of Legends versus Tekken. So getting into FGC comparatively is much cheaper than other esports, I think. And the only thing is like, it just takes, you have to travel so much, right? At least for Tekken and CPT. And I totally lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
the question was, what do you think is unique? No, it's fine.
What do I think is unique about starting a brand in the FGC, right?
Yeah, as opposed to like other communities.
I don't know. It's cheaper to get into the personalities are really there, and there's a lot more freedom of what working with the player. There's no like franchising or leagues or whatever. It just, I feel like there's a lot of more opportunity to be creative and collaborate with different brands. It just feels less red tape, less buttoned up, less like corporate-y, and I feel more comfortable collaborating with a lot of people there.
Okay, yeah. So there's like, would you say there's more individualism? And
yeah, I definitely think so. When you think of a team, right, in maybe like League of Legends, you often think of the whole team, right? Not just one player. There's 5 people, whereas with FGC, it's just one person, and you're able to give them more attention. So I feel like both. I sound like I'm hating on League a lot, but I love League. I just think like FGC comparing it to League is what is like. League is like what you think of esports, right? And then FGC is like the grassroots whole thing. And yeah, I guess individualism in FGC definitely exists, and definitely like with each event, right? Even like where the event is, it's going to have its own culture and people and atmosphere. Like Chicago is going to be totally different from like Electric Cancel. Combo Breaker is going to be totally different from like Electric Cancel, right? So there is like a lot of individualism wherever every FGC community, finding a community is different. And I think that's what makes it super unique.
Yeah. No,
like,
I agree.
And what other esport is there? Like a huge Pakistani community.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, what other esport would you find? I mean, you can go to Atlanta and they're all wearing like, ATL Korean shirts. And then, you go to Japan and they're all wearing frog hats. Like, it's just...
Yeah, exactly. So it's
really cool.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how diverse and crazy it is, how it brings together so many different groups of people.
Yeah.
I guess that's what makes it unique.
Yeah, definitely. The diversity in the FGC, I think, is something that's we don't talk about it a lot, but like it really is, like it's so inclusive and we don't think about it. We just kind of take it for granted.
Right. So like, there's like a lot of controversy about like the discrimination and sexism. And yes, it's a problem in FGC. But comparing to other esports, FGC is quite diverse compared to a lot of the other esports out there.
Yeah, and it's something like I don't even think about, right? Like when you go to tournaments, like it's not something you ever think about. It's like, oh, it's just,
like, oh, it is so diverse.
I mean, like what you think about is like, oh, you play fighting games? Like, cool.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Alrighty. Paygun asks, What are some of the oh, and you touched on this a little bit earlier. So what are some of the qualities you look for in a player or streamer that you're looking to perhaps join your team? So I know you said...
Shit, sorry.
No, it's all good.
Sorry.
Just don't spill the juice again.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I should have asked if I am allowed to curse. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you can say whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've already been cursing, so sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
But
It's all good.
for me, number one, okay, just be somebody that people want to work with. Like with Echo Fox, I just, the people that were really easy to work with were the fighting game people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding branding, it's really important for me, for players to just want to take a hold of their brand and build it and understand that their career will be longer and more fruitful and fulfilling if they focus on other aspects as well. Yeah, we talked about that. And so when I hear that they have a Twitch stream, or they're working on their YouTube, or they're working on something else in real life, or they have a job, I think I like it. I like hearing that they're more than just grinding games all day, all night,
Right.
and not developing in other places.
Just motivated to do other things.
To accomplish something. So it's something important to me that they're able to have a long-term vision, a long-term goal, because for me it's really important. Like, I'm not a kind of, I don't really like when people bounce around teams too much. So when people come to us, I want them to feel like at home, right? We want to stay.
Right.
And to just build that long-term vision of working together and collaborating and understanding that it's a process, right? We're not going to see overnight results like right away. And that's just sharing that particular vision and being a good communicator. You'd be surprised, like, people don't know how to communicate in this sort of simple as like answering an email in a timely fashion, which I'm really, really guilty of, which so like
it happens.
Just developing yourself, not just as a player, but as a person.
I think we can leave it at that. That's awesome. Yeah. And the final question comes from Chris Hepburn. And this is a bit of like the opposite side of the earlier question. So he asks, even though there are teams at times, fighting games are still very much a solo esport. So what are some of the challenges in promoting an individual compared to a team? So I guess earlier we talked about, how is it easier, I guess, to promote somebody than... So what are some of the hardships that you find of promoting just a single person compared to a whole team?
Hardship is... Well, the one is when, if your players are good, they're gonna eventually meet each other, right?
Right.
We had so many team kills throughout the years, but it's also an indication, like it's gonna happen when you're good. So it's not that bad of a problem to have.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, what I notice as a struggle is just being able to give everybody the attention that they need. The individual attention, because not everybody is gonna require something, right? Everybody requires something different. Everybody's individual. So what works with Cuddle is not gonna work with Joey. And so that's why I try to keep the team close-knit and small, because then I'm able to properly give my attention. And even now, like, I'm having a hard just 6 sponsored players. And it's just, that's the struggle. Just like not having enough time or hands to physically, mentally, emotionally be there for them the way I should be. Because, I'm just spread thin. It's like I'm still in the startup stage where a lot of stuff is done by me still.
Right.
Only me. And it's just like, so this year I really want to work on proper delegation because I want to be able to give them the attention that they need to become champions, right? Because being a sponsor is more than just like slapping a t-shirt on them and being like, hey, play, right? You need to do way more than that. So that's the struggle, because I am no expert in Tekken. I have no idea what they need to be champions, right? So that's why this year we're bringing on like help, like analysts and people to really take their stuff to the next level. But that's the struggle. Like, I will never understand. I'm just a social, like, I was just a marketing person, right? I'm not a Tekken player, so I don't know. Like, when Janelle comes down and she's really upset, I can't be like, oh, like, maybe you should have did it. Like, I'm just like, it's okay. Like, you did your best. And like, they need that extra help. And so that's the struggle, is that I can't always provide everything.
Right.
Me as a person. So the struggle is, learning to delegate better and just making sure that everybody gets the attention they need. Because I don't want people to feel like they're not part of the team, right? And that I don't care.
Yeah, or just find like a cloning machine. Make like
that,
copies.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wish.
Well, Emily, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It really has.
Sorry, I know I freaking babble a lot.
No, it's really all good. I like it. I mean, these guys, they're all heathens in the chat, so they listen no matter what. I mean, Obama and I talked for 3 hours, and
oh my god, Obama's great, by the way.
I love Obama. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I should have him back. It's been like a year last time since he's been on, so it'd be interesting to have him back. But that's another guy that's like, I've been subbed, I think, to his Twitch forever, and I don't really watch a lot of Twitch just because of my schedule. But I think I've been subbed for his Twitch for like 18 months or something like that. And like, I met him first time at Comic Breaker last year, and it was just a cool experience, right? Like you see these people for so long, and like you talk to them, obviously, and so meeting them is really cool. So. I think we have a really cool perspective in the FGC. You don't get to see a lot in other places. So
so I think it's great. I love podcasts like this. I think you're doing a really good job. I just think there needs to be more of this, right?
Yeah, I think it's coming. I remember when I was talking to Obama about how I think there should be more podcasts. All of a sudden you see King J do something similar, and then recently Sajam came out with his. So like,
oh yes, that's my podcast.
That's also you? Oh my god, you're everywhere. That's wild.
Yeah, that's why I don't have a lot of time. So on the side, aside from Equinox, I'm also doing the like talent management ish. So that's where I work with JD. And so part of that is also creating like that sort of content. So with SageM, I would help produce afternoon tea. That's just, I don't know. That's why I'm everywhere, man.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that either. That's crazy. Well, you guys, I mean, like I said, same thing with JDCR's projects. I mean, Afternoon Teas obviously has been a success. And I like the format. I mean, I personally am more of like, I like one-on-one podcasts. I think they're a little more intimate, a little I like longer podcasts too, where we can just kind of shoot the shit. Yes. But the way they're doing the podcast is, I mean, obviously it's very news oriented, and it's very now oriented. Yeah. But we also need that, right? So like things like what Rip is doing, and now Sajam, it's valuable because we don't have a lot of it. So I like seeing it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the group podcasts are really great, but I also love these sort of podcasts, right? The one-on-one where people are able to really delve in, because when you have like 4 people, it's hard to really get deep because everybody needs to say, right? And you're on a time crunch, so it's hard to get intimate and really get down to the details. So time and place, right? I just want more I love podcasts. We need more shows.
No, absolutely. And I think people are really gonna like this. This was really eye-opening, not only for me, but I think for people who didn't know a lot about, I mean, just forget about like specifically Equinox, but just what it takes to really do what you guys are doing. I think this was eye-opening, and I think people are really gonna like this, so I appreciate you coming on again.
I'm glad. I'm really honored to have been a guest, and it was really fun.
So where can people find you if they're looking for you and they want to get some games in Tekken?
So no. Twitch.tv/NyxRose, Twitter.com/NyxRose. But if you want to follow Equinox, which I really hope you do, Twitter.com/EQNX Gaming. But no, don't find me. No, you cannot play with me online. No.
Okay. That's
so embarrassing.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, Nyx like the Persona 3 final boss. So
yes, that's where the name originated.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Awesome. Last thing I'll say is, again, like I really appreciate what you guys do. I really think that like EQNX and UIU, you guys really have put the FGC kind of on your back for the last few years. When I'm talking about like grassroots, like FGC sponsorships, like that's what I think of. Like the focus is so on fighting games. It's not like, you started somewhere else and then you saw fighting games as an opportunity to kind of like come in and, test the waters. You guys have kind of put the FGC on your back and be like, well, this is what we're focused on. And it's really cool to see. And I think it's good for both the future of the landscape. And I'm really interested in, I can't wait for what you guys have stored in the future for us. So again, thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's my pleasure.